When did your gut feeling of something's not right here save you?
Posted this before, took my 2 babies to an in-home daycare run by a lovely woman. About 9 days in, the woman's teenage son was home when I picked up my kids. He gave me a super creepy vibe. Pulled the kids from the daycare and placed them elsewhere. Maybe 10 years later, that kid murdered 2 people, then killed his mom.
Went to a college party, and one of the guys made me feel very uncomfortable. He didn't ever do anything to me, but something seemed off. I kept dumping my shots, because getting smashed seemed like a bad idea. I ended up taking a friend, and leaving, while he told us that we were being lame, by not having more of the Grey Goose. He raped another girl, at the party that night.
Okay, I'm a dude. I was drinking with my lady friend, just a friend, and her friend, also a girl, and there is this dude keep bothering me all the time even in the bathroom. In my drunk mind, I'm thinking he is gonna go for the girls, while I'm shit-faced, because he keeps inviting us to somewhere. He is asking me privately, girls don't realize, but I keep refusing. An hour later, he is inviting us to his home. 30 minutes later, he is inviting me home. At that point I'm totally drunk, and I just ran to the girls, told them I want to leave, they don't. I gave them whatever is in my wallet, and ran away. Later that week, I learned that dude is gay. I'm telling myself this dude is not just gay, he is a predator. 2 days later I learned he was arrested of rape. Dodged a bullet there.
Well, I was walking home. Wasn't late, and I'm from a pretty safe area, but it was that time of year when it starts to get dark really early, so felt kind of ominous. Anyway, I passed this guy in a red sweater, and red tracksuit bottoms, and he looks at me funny. Maybe he's high, maybe he's drunk, either way, something's not quite right about him. I keep going. Look behind me, he's still there. Cross the road. He crosses with me. As soon as I turn a corner, I sprint to my apartment complex, and run into the coded gate, and wait. He walks up a minute later, and stares at me through the gate. He just stares at me for a good 10 or so seconds, then runs back the way he came. Shivers.
I smoke weed. One day I text my dealer. He takes a while to respond, but eventually replies with,
"Shit is hot right now, bro, but you can drop by real quick."
I also asked for a ½ ounce, which is big jail time for possession where I live. So I'm driving to his house, and am about 10 minutes away when I suddenly just feel so nauseous, and uneasy for some reason. I think about what he said, and ultimately decide to just go home. That night on the news there is a report about a large meth bust that had occurred earlier in the day, and that 6 people had been arrested. It was my dealer's house. I'm still grateful to this day that I decided to turn around, otherwise I'd be in prison. Edit, I don't smoke.
I feel like you added the edit, so you throw cops off your trail. Good one. I too do not smoke weed, my fellow man.
I do? It's recreationally legal here, suck it, coppers.
Was at a party in a rough neighborhood. I made a lot of poor choices as a teen. I'm vaguely aware of an argument going on somewhere else in the house. I couldn't put a finger on it, but tension was rising. I decided it was time to go. I grabbed my friends, and left. Not 10 minutes after we left, someone pulled a gun, and fired a few rounds. Some random girl was hit, non-fatally. Anyway, someone stole someone else's coke. So the guy left, came back with a gun. Threatened some people. Then lost control of the situation, and shot some poor girl. Edit, since apparently there's some confusion. The coke in question was cocaine.
Almost 8 months pregnant, normal, complication-free pregnancy. Walking through the grocery store, I had a twinge of a headache. Told my husband we needed to go home. At home I took a shower, and relaxed a bit, but got an urgent, impending doom feeling. Still, just a tiny headache, not even enough for a Tylenol. Packed my toddler's diaper bag, and requested we go to urgent care. The whole ride there I felt fine, wondering what I was even going to tell them at check-in, but that "you're not okay" feeling was still looming. We pulled in, I carried my sleeping 2-year-old inside, and basically said, "I'm pregnant, and something isn't right." My blood pressure was 256/148. I had a seizure 7 minutes after getting in the room. If I had told my husband to drive past and go to the emergency room, we would have been stuck in traffic, as a truck had rolled over. If I hadn't left the grocery store, or my house when I did, there's a chance I wouldn't have made it. We got a ride to the hospital when I was stable. I was induced at 35-ish weeks, and my son was born perfectly fine, albeit small. I stayed on blood pressure meds for 8 days before it went back to normal.
It was Christmas Day. I'm driving to my parents at 6 a.m., it's extremely dark out, when I see a horrible accident in front of me taking up the 2 right lanes. Both vehicles don't have their hazard lights on. I pull in front of them, switch my hazard lights on, and get out of my car on the freeway hoping I can help them, and make sure they're okay. I'm walking toward the first driver 18 to 19, who has blood all over him. He asks me to help him talk to 911, because he spoke broken English. Then, I go to the second driver in his 60s, and see if he's okay, who just blames me for the accident. I just responded I didn't do it. The operator then tells me to get everyone on the side of the freeway, which is only 2 to 3 feet from the slowest lane. Suddenly I have this gut feeling to look to my left, and as I do, I see a SUV racing toward us, and I suddenly realize he's not going to stop, and he's about to hit the first vehicle. The rest happened within a few seconds. The only thing I can think of is get out of the way, and the only way was to go backwards. At the time, I didn't know, but there was an overpass behind us. As I'm about to fully fall back, I bothered to look where I was falling, and saw how far the drop was. I reasoned I was either going to get hit by the SUV, or be crippled from the fall, and get hit by a car below me. Fat nope from my part, I hurled myself back up, and as I'm doing so, I watch the SUV hit my leg. The only thing I'm thinking is, relax, relax, relax. I came out with no injuries, and the young man wasn't hit. Unfortunately, the older man next to me was hit, and killed on impact. After hitting the man, the guy in the SUV 65 plus, hit my car, and then swerved, through all 5 lanes of traffic, and crashed into the center divider. He stayed in his car for a while, and when he tried to get out, he was frantic, and tried to cross all 5 lanes while cars were going by. I screamed, and told him please not to cross. The guy that was hit, was knocked like 100 feet from where we were standing, past where my car was parked. His shoes, socks, money, everything was scattered across the freeway. The worst part of witnessing it was the skid marks of his blood on the freeway, and his brain matter was in one little pile. All this was happening while I was still on the phone with 911. The operator asked me what happened, and asked me if I could drag his body off the freeway. I couldn't do it. I was afraid someone else might not see the accident, hit my car, and then me. It's been over a year since the accident, and the police report isn't out yet. The guy in the SUV has insurance, and a lawyer though. After the accident, a California Highway Patrol told me that he's seen accidents like this, where the Good Samaritan was killed trying to help. Take away from this, do not get out of your vehicle on the freeway. Thank you so much for the silver.
Worked as a shot girl at a pub. One night I rejected someone who attempted to get my number. Not unusual, and he didn't seem that bothered. The whole exchange wasn't strange to me. In the early hours after the bar closed, I went to leave through the back door into the car park like usual, when I saw the sensor light outside was on. Someone was standing just outside the door. I felt uneasy, so went out the front, and asked one of the bouncers to walk me round the back to my car. As we rounded the corner we spotted this guy lurking outside the door holding his belt like a makeshift garrote. When he saw us he started screaming that I was a and I should die. He scampered off into the road, and never came back.
I'm a firefighter. We got called out to a tree fire started by fallen power lines. We pull up in the truck, and I'm trusting that my driver and crew leader are doing their job, and have good situational awareness. We get out of the truck, and we've parked next to a set of power lines, not fallen. It's a very windy night, and I can see the lines swinging, so I voice my concerns to my crew leader, who says it'll be fine. We get out, hose out, risk of the tree fire catching onto a house outweighing potential risk of arcing, plus the line disconnected when it fell, and I'm on the branch ready to start putting it out with 2 others near me when I get a chill. I look up, see the line swinging violently, and yell, "Everyone move." As the 3 of us sprint and dive out of the way, we hear a thwip and crack, and sure enough, the line we were under came loose and stayed connected to the power pole. If I hadn't got the chill, chances are we would have had 3 fried firefighters.
Damn, you would have become a fried fighter.
Fire fryers. Fried fighters fired, fire fry fighters.
Not me, but when my mum was a teenager on 18th of November 1987, she was going to London to visit a friend. It was around 7:20 p.m, and she decided she was going to take a taxi instead of going by tube, because it didn't feel right. King's Cross Tube Station. 10 minutes later, the whole station caught on fire, and 30 out of the 40 people died. If she had decided to take the tube, she would likely have died.
I'd asked for days off to see The Dark Knight in theaters. I had the seniority at my retail job to get the days off, and asked 3 weeks in advance for the days. The scheduling manager hated me, and didn't give me the days off. I'd really wanted to say it, and go anyway, and just go to work on 4 hours, or less of sleep. The day rolled around, and my gut instinct told me to just go to bed, and to see the movie the next week. Had I gone that night, I would have been in the Aurora theater James Holmes had been in. I'd had 3 friends in the theater that all lived, but multiple coworkers lost friends, or family. My dad heard the news break when it happened. He worked nights out of his truck, and heard it on the radio, and called my mom frantically to check I was in bed, and hadn't gone to the theater, since he knew I loved Batman, and wouldn't shut up about the movie. I'm glad I went to bed. I saw the movie when it was released to DVD. I couldn't bring myself to see it in a theater.
This happened about 12 years ago. There were missing women in the area, but the city I lived in was big in adult entertainment, and the workers typically have a transient lifestyle, so we weren't sure if it was just rumors. I should also mention, this is a border town. Anyways, I went out for a meal with coworkers after shutting the bar down. This was around the time a smoking by law came into effect, and you could no longer smoke under awnings. After I finished eating, I went out for a smoke by myself. It is about 3 a.m. at this point. The awning ended adjacent to the parking lot, and there was a car with out-of-country plates on it from across the border. The restaurant was also a motel, so there was a second story where there were rooms. As I'm smoking, this creepy guy from inside follows me out. It was winter, and he was sitting at the bar alone drinking a milkshake. Not weird in and of itself, but something was off about him. He begins to approach me, making unwavering eye contact, and starts saying really weird stuff.
I figured since I was getting the cold shoulder inside, I should come stand out in the cold.
This was 12 years ago, so I can't remember much detail on what he was saying, but every hair on my body stood up. I knew something was really wrong. And as he reached into his pockets, and continued walking towards me, I became acutely aware of how close I was to what I now guessed was this man's car. He wasn't large, or physically imposing, but I couldn't see his hands, and something about how he looked at me, it was like looking into the eyes of a predator. Cliché, I know, but I had no doubt he was planning on abducting me. I just knew. It was a primal sense of I have to do something. My back is against the wall, his car, and the empty parking lot to my right, and this creep edging closer, and closer, blocking my path into the restaurant door, which is about 70 feet away across the patio. He is no longer speaking, and is approaching, almost within arm's reach. I knew I had to fight him, or I would end up in his trunk. Seconds before I'm about to kick him in the balls, you could hear the footsteps of someone coming down the steps from the hotel. At that exact moment he took a giant step back, and took his hands out of his pockets. It confirmed every horrible suspicion I had. An innocent person wouldn't react that way. I flicked my smoke, and ran inside. A bunch of bouncers from the bar were eating, and I told them as quickly as I could what happened. Within the 20 seconds it took to explain, the man and his car were gone. To this day, I know if that person didn't come down those stairs at that exact moment, he likely would have tased me and put me in the trunk of his car.
My daughter was 1.5 years at the time. She had a cold, but bedtime went off without a hitch. I woke up in the middle of the night that night, really uncomfortable and anxious. Something was off, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I got up, had a midnight snack, tried to calm my nerves. I decided to check on my kids, who shared a room, before trying to go back to sleep. I get in there, and immediately I hear a light sound coming from her crib wheezing. It was so quiet, there was no way to hear it outside of the room. I got her up, and saw that her breathing was fast and labored. I took her to the hospital, where she ended up with an overnight stay, oxygen, and nebulizer treatments, because her oxygen had dipped. She was diagnosed with reactive airway disease due to the cold, which triggered the asthma attack. Was riding my motorcycle, with a friend on the back. We were going down a country road behind a truck hauling a bunch of old car tires, when all of a sudden I decided we shouldn't be there, so I slowed way down, to let the truck go ahead of us. Just as I did, one of the tires fell off the truck, and landed right where we would have been.
I'm positive bikers have super senses when riding. Whenever I'm out on my bike I'm able to spot everything that's moving, and most things that would get me killed. The only bad thing is that I could see a parked car, and my brain will give the illusion that it's moving.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and ring the notification bell.